Hello everyone, my name is Lord25 and welcome back to another redstone video. So in today's video I'll be showing you a 1.17 Shulker Shell Farm that I have designed here. And the reason why shulker farming even exists now is because of the newest snapshot that was done in Minecraft 1.17, where they finally added the ability to farm up shulkers. And that is exactly what this farm does. So this farm is both simple and really easy to use, making it perfect for literally anyone. It also can be built in single dimension, makes it possible to build this farm anywhere in the overworld, the nether or even the end if you want to. This farm also reuses all the shulkers that are being generated in this farm, meaning that this farm will be more reliable than some other concepts out there. While designing this farm, I have went from many different iterations of this farm, so I would like to show you the process of designing such a farm. So for anyone that would not like to see that part, they can skip to a certain timestamp in the video, or for all the others that want to follow the process of designing this farm, let's go. But first of all, let's go over the principles of how this farm even works. So for a shulker farm to work, you will obviously need a shulker, and that shulker will produce shulker bullets. Now imagine that this same shulker gets hit by that shulker bullet. If the shulker is above 50% health, it has a chance of reproducing himself as another shulker. So the old shulker will teleport away from the spot where the old shulker was, and a new shulker will be generated at a spot of the old one. Such farms also have a flaw, and that flaw is whenever the shulker that is meant to be reproduced gets hit enough of times without a successful teleportation, he will just die, meaning that the entire farm will be stopped because this guy will not be able to make more shulkers of its kind. So the exact things happened there. One solution to that problem would be to have more spaces where the shulkers can replicate themselves. So in this case all the glass lines are the places where the shulker shells will be able to hit the shulkers, meaning that they can replicate as much as they want. And whenever a shulker replicates to a place where they can't continue making more of themselves, they will just be pushed back eventually by this piston movement, which is caused by a hopper minecart which is also picking up the loot. Whenever a shulker is hit by a shulker bullet, he tries to replicate himself somewhere in a random spot in 17 by 17 by 17 cube around him, meaning that you will need a lot of spawning spaces to make those spawns successful. And that is exactly what we have done here, so we have stacked 3 of those farms on top of each other. This farm has proved that it has enough capabilities in terms of spawning places to produce a few extra shulkers along the first ones that we have put in this farm. But the problem with this design is because we use minecarts with snow golems inside of them, and the problem becomes apparent when we have an insane amount of shulkers down here, because they will be able to shoot multiple of those shulker bullets at the same time. And if the timings are just right, this minecart will be hit by 2 shulker bullets at the same time, meaning that this minecart will break and the snow golem will just fall down. Well, you can see kind of few of them already managed to escape. By optimizing the cell design to allow the snow golems to hit the shulkers, but the shulkers not being able to hit the snow golems, we can design something like this. And you can clearly see that those shulkers have replicated themselves quite a few times. But with all shulker farms that are in existence, there is a problem. The shulker has a limited amount of trials of teleportation before he will die, meaning that eventually those shulkers will die. Even if the chance is really small, it will eventually happen. And there is a great video by Cubic Meter explaining this into more detail. After many hours of trial and error, I have finally made a farm that works reliably. In the middle of this farm we have a Shulker Duplicator. So this is basically a spawn cell where we have our initial shulker that is being aggroed by either a player or snow golem to produce all the other shulkers that will spawn in this system. So this particular cell is quite similar to Cubic Meter's design or version of it, of this cell, but I have modified it quite a lot to make it fit into this farm and the whole system. Whenever that middle shulker decides to duplicate himself, he has a 17 by 17 cube of different spawning places available, and all of those spawning places have a minecart rail nearby, meaning that whenever a shulker spawns, this minecart will be able to pick that shulker up and bring it all the way from the farm into this cell here. Now we have a shulker coming from the farm, which I have spawned using a spawn egg. So over here we have a separator that will separate empty minecarts from the filled one. So the passenger will be ejected on top of this observer, and we will have another minecart that will take it forward. But in case the minecart is empty, we will see what happens with that minecart in a minute. So we can see that that minecart just continues its way and gets destroyed over by this cactus. But now let's talk about what happens to our shulkers. So over here we have a rail separator. So whenever we have a shulker, there is a 50% chance that we try to return him to his cell, which would literally send him on this track that will send him into the cell itself, or if there is already a shulker in there, he will just teleport somewhere randomly in this farm, which will not cause any problems. But other 50% of time, we will send him into this storage cell over here, where he will be stored for the next time. And whenever this container of basically safety backup is filled up, we will send all the remaining shulkers into this killing cell. This killing cell is really quite simple, so whenever a shulker will be on his way to the kill zone, we'll have this ejector rail that will eject him into the only possible block that he could find in this area. In this case, the soul soil block, meaning that this shulker will be placed on top of a wither rose, and he will eventually take so much damage that he will die, and all the loot will end up in this chest. So this is roughly a loot from one half of a day of AFKing, so that would be roughly 25 shulker cells per hour, which is quite a lot for such a rare resource. You might be wondering what are those two counters doing here, and one of them is sending these minecarts throughout the system. And the way it works is quite simple, so we just send a minecart every now and then to just prevent any jamming of the minecarts, which would be quite lethal in a farm like this, because we depend on the minecarts being as reliable as possible. The other counter over here has another functionality. Now, we send some shulkers back into the farm from this line over here, but every now and then we'll end up with 0 shulkers in the system, and that is because of the reasons that I have described you earlier. It's just not possible to have one shulker being able to reproduce himself countless of times. So this is where this storage comes into play. So every now and then we will let one of those shulkers get back into the cells. Now, these shulkers will then try to replicate themselves, and the entire process will continue. Now let's try out this farm. So I will go quickly into this survival mode over here, and you can clearly see that this shulker has got my attention, and he will immediately start duplicating himself. And the reason why I chose a player over a snow golem is quite simple, because having a snow golem here is not 100% reliable, because sometimes when I AFK'd for a couple of hours, the snow golem was literally gone, and I have no reasonable explanation as towards why that happened, because it's not possible to hit him from here. So that is why we use a player as well as a beacon over there to heal the player, and with this design the player will most likely not die, and this will be completely safe. So we can clearly see that some shulkers have already duplicated in the second layer over there, and we'll be able to see them coming up from that side whenever that minecart comes on top. Okay, we can see that. But because I want to show you this farm around while I'm not here, I will go quickly into spectator mode while summoning a golem. So now this snow golem is actually doing my part at aggravating those shulkers. So we can see that the cell is currently empty, but whenever this shulker will arrive here, he will be sent back into the farm, and let's see that in action now. The shulker will make its way through the farm and will end up in the same cell that we have seen earlier. Now this shulker didn't do much, but at least he has duplicated himself and he died. And that is one of the reasons why we need so many shulkers. Every now and then it's completely normal to have 0 shulkers in this shulker farm, and that is because of the reasons that I have described you earlier. But this is exactly why we have this shulker storage over here. And in a couple of seconds we can see that we have already launched a shulker back into the farm. And this shulker presents a fresh start to the whole cycle that we have seen earlier. So we can now see that this shulker has already created a copy of himself on the top layer, and we are expected to see him somewhere else. We have another one there. So from this point all the process will repeat themselves countless of times, and this farm will keep producing fresh shulker shells as it is demanded. In case you want even more security with this farm, I would still suggest building a couple of more storage silos for shulkers just in case something goes wrong with this farm. And also, if you want to be extra safe, it would be a great idea to build this farm somewhere in the end near a fresh supply of shulker shells or shulkers, so you could easily throw a couple of them into the farm whenever something happens to the old supply. But with that being said, I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. So this one was a bit different and really quite hard to get things right, and that is the exact reason why I'm so proud that this farm finally works now. So I really hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and if you have any more questions, let me know in the comment sections down below. But I will also be providing a world download to this world, so you can test this farm out for yourselves. So that was all for today. Thank you all for watching. This has been LordJohn25, and I will see you in the next video.